Hi, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on presentation, specifically the information from chapter 9. Also, I will be going over at the end just some brief information about what I will be looking for in your presentations for your second project. So I'm going to kind of speed through this because I'm still a little sick. So I'm going to see if I can get through this before like a sneezing fit happens. So let's see if I can get through this. If I can turn, there it goes. So, yes, you are going to have to do a presentation for your project too. You're going to have the paper, the final paper, along with other milestones, but your final project will be your final paper and then a presentation reporting on what you wrote. I know a lot of people hate public speaking. I think we all know that famous poll that came out some years ago. Americans, their number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death. So people would rather die than do public speaking. So I know a lot of you probably don't like it, but it is important because not only in school, but also after you graduate, you will be probably giving a lot of presentations throughout your career, whether that is right now, like over Zoom, whether that's actually in person, whether that is you're on a webinar, you are actually speaking on like a panel at an event, whatever the case may be, there will be opportunities for you to speak. So today we're going to be discussing presentation guidelines and also a brief overview of graphic guidelines. I believe there's 10 presentation guidelines. So the first one, I feel like with all of the writing material that we've been going over is know your audience. That should be a given, but you want to make sure you are tailoring your presentation to your audience. So who are you going to be presenting to? Are you going to be presenting to students? Are you going to be presenting to decision makers? Are you going to be presenting to people on your team? Are you going to be speaking to people at a conference, on a panel? Whatever the case it is, get to know your audience. What is it for? And then that's how you tailor your presentation. Empathize with your audience as well. That's part of knowing your audience. So, for example, are you speaking and it is first thing in the morning, like 8 a.m.? Are you speaking to people after lunch? Is it going to be a very long presentation? You have to anticipate those things. First thing in the morning, a lot of people aren't morning people. So they're just coming in, brain's a little fuzzy. I don't want to be here this early. Let me just listen to this. After lunch, people are about to go into a food coma. So you really won't have their attention. They're a little sleepy. Long presentation, people have short attention spans. You got to keep them engaged. You maybe do a break or maybe do like an icebreaker in the beginning, something in the middle, whatever the case it is, get to know your audience, get to know the settings, and that's how you tailor it. And then lastly is don't talk over their heads. Be aware of the different knowledge levels. If you're speaking to decision makers who are going to help you get approval for a project, a proposal, you can be a little bit more in depth with the presentation. But if you're talking to a general audience, well, you got to keep it very high level in general. Number two is called use the preacher's maxim. This is how you talk or how you build your presentation. The idea is first you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. Pretty much is you're going to, in the beginning, introduce yourself, introduce your topic, introduce the proposal, whatever the case it is. You're going to get your listeners with attention with something, a story, a statistic, maybe another technique like a rhetorical question. We'll get to that later as well. State your purpose. Tell them this is who I am. Use a statistic to open up your presentation, state your purpose, and then list the main points you will cover. So, my name is so and so. Did you know that 75% of blah, blah, blah? So, today I'm going to talk to you about that statistic and also how we can address that problem. Today, I'm going to tell you A, B, and C. And then we're going to wrap it up with our conclusion at the end, where I will tell you the solutions. I will tell you my findings. That's how you start forming your presentation. You have the intro, you're going to have your body where you discuss the main points you referenced in the beginning. And then your conclusion is where you review the main points. And then you specify any actions that are going to be needed at the end of your presentation. This is for, I think, long-term general presentations. Obviously, at the end of your presentation for me, you won't have to be like, and this is the action that we need to take. I will review what I'm expecting from you, but these are just general guidelines. Number three, number four, pretty simple. Number three is stick to a few main points. I wouldn't go over three because people have short attention spans. You may not have the time. So when you're thinking about like, okay, which main points do I want to focus on? Focus on, if you don't even have three, you have two main points, then focus on two. But I wouldn't go over three. Keep it very short, concise, and so that way it's easy for people to follow you. Number four, I know there's a lot of controversy. Can I use a card? Can I not allow? Can I bring a piece of paper? Honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Even the book agrees with that. Um, of course, don't read your speech verbatim. If you print out your speech, don't look at the paper and just read it the entire time. However, it is helpful to put an outline, whether that's reminding yourself, like, okay, intro, okay, body, okay, conclusion, and a couple of bullet points each for each section. Maybe you need to memorize like a stat, or maybe you need to memorize like in your intro, you're going to ask them a rhetorical question, write down the rhetorical question so you don't forget. This is important because it shows that you can't really memorize your entire speech. Sometimes that's just too much, but you want to be familiar with it. So that's why it's put your outline. Don't put your entire speech, don't print out your speech. Practice it. Be familiar with the material. But then your cards can list anything that's going to be important for your presentation, stats, cues, whatever the case may be. Number five and number six, practice. I cannot stress this enough. It is from this side, very noticeable and very clear when someone hasn't practiced. Even practicing twice can make all the difference in the world. And there's so many techniques you can use when practicing. Personally, I like to just practice. I like to read it out, just, kind of type up what I'm going to say and just read it out. Sometimes just do a cold run. Just look at put it together and then just go through it and work out the kinks. Some people use a mirror. Some people actually use like, hey, like you have a roommate, be like, I know this is kind of like time consuming. Can you just give me 10 minutes of your time? I need to practice my speech. Something like that. Video recording as well. That will also help you when it comes to using filler words, which I will mention in a different part on a different slide. But no matter what works, no matter what you decide to do, just do it and find out what works best for you and use that technique and practice. Number six, speak vigorously and deliberately. That means with enthusiasm, but also with care and attention. So something like all of the name. Are you going to be mentioning any names? Are you going to be giving credit to people? Make sure you know how to pronounce certain words. Make sure you are enthusiastic. Use hand gestures, and that's another rule that I will go over. Show that you are engaged with the material. Show that you are interested and you're excited to talk about this topic to other people. People, that's how you draw in people when you're giving a presentation or just even with public speaking in general. You want to show some interest because you want people to be interested, but no one's going to be interested in your topic if you are just very monotone. This is it. So yeah, no one is going to want to pay attention to that. No, and you're going to lose people like that. So practice and speak with enthusiasm and be deliberate. Like I said, I was going to talk about avoid filler words. Filler words are, I've already used a couple of them. Okay, so, and best way to avoid it, honestly, I'm still working on it as well. This right here, personally, I'm like, I don't know if this can be achievable. I'm always in awe when I hear people give a great speech, a great presentation, and you don't hear filler words. And I'm like, I wish I could be on that level. I will. It takes time and practice. So, some recommendations: use pauses. Take a breather. Usually, that's a good time to transition for your audience. So, let's say you introduce yourself. These are going to be the main points we're going to be discussing. This is my purpose. Pause, and then move on to the body, move on to your first point. It's always nice to take pauses because it is a good transition. It tells people, like, okay, this person is going to move on to a different idea. Practice with an audio recorder, or even like this. I am currently recording myself on Zoom. I will stop recording, I will upload this, and I will watch it. Um, as I say, right now, you will be surprised at yourself when you record yourself and then you listen to it back or you watch it back and you realize, oh my gosh, I use so many of these filler words. It's a little cringy to hear yourself or see yourself, but it does help. Or ask for live help. So when you're practicing your speech, you ask your roommate and ask them for feedback. Or you can even tell them, like, hey, I need your help. I'm going to practice my speech. Can you keep track of how many times I've said or so, okay, and like, ask them. Tell them, don't interrupt me unless that's your preferred method. Just tell them, ask them to keep track. That can be super helpful as well. So number 8, I think I mentioned this when how to open your presentation. You can use a statistic, you can use a personal anecdote, or you can use a rhetorical question. These get listeners thinking about your topic or the point you're trying to make. And while enthusiasm is usually the best delivery technique for capturing the attention of your audience, so is a rhetorical question. You can use a rhetorical question at the beginning. That's how you introduce your presentation. I pulled this from a textbook. They use the idea of like copy centers. So at the beginning, have you ever wondered how you might improve the productivity of your clerical staff? And then you go into your speech. You can use it as a transition, especially when you're in the middle of your speech. You're jumping from point A, now you're going to go to point B. You can use a rhetorical question. This one, we've seen that a centralized copy center can improve the efficiency of report production, but will it simplify report production for your staff? Well, I don't know. And then you're going to go into the next point. Or you can use it to get people's attention before your conclusion or before you end the speech. You can say, now that we've examined the features of a centralized copy center, what are the next steps you should make at Dark Star Publishing? And that's how you really conclude, and you tell them the solution, or you tell them you ask what you are asking for. Rhetorical questions can be super helpful, so try to use them if possible. And then lastly, maintain eye contact. That should be a given. I know that can be hard, that can be scary as well. But listeners pay attention to what you are saying more when you look at them. No one wants to hear a speech and no one wants to listen to somebody if they are just looking everywhere but the person that's listening. Or if you bring a speech and you're just reading it from the paper and you're not looking at everyone. Try to make eye contact. Don't don't stare at someone directly. I've actually had a student do that and had to tell them, like, look around, make eye contact with multiple people in the room. Granted, I'm on Zoom right now, so it is kind of, there's no one to look at, but I try to look at the middle of the screen. Obviously, like, I'm moving around sometimes, like I look up, but for the most part, I try to look at the camera that's straight ahead. Or I'm looking at what's on my screen. As long as you're looking straight ahead, that works as well if you're going to be doing your presentation recording like this. And then lastly, use appropriate gestures. As you can see, I use my hands a lot. A lot of people do naturally talk with their hands, and that's what this guideline is. Use appropriate gestures and posture. So not only is speaking part of your speech, but your gestures and your posture reinforces you. It gives you credibility. So use hand and fingers to emphasize major points. Maybe you need to point out something. Maybe like this, you're trying to state the importance of something. When it comes to posture, especially if you are in front of people, make sure you are standing straight. Don't lean, like if there's a podium, don't lean on the podium like this. Both hands on the podium, straight, look at your audience. That's pretty much all the guidelines for the presentation that I wanted to pull from the textbook. The next is going to be graphic guidelines. I put it starts on page 194. I believe there's like 10 graphic guidelines. I personally was like, "Ugh, no, I'm not going to go over all these." So you can review them if you want. I pulled the ones that I think are not only the most important, but are some of the most common mistakes or the most common things I've seen out in my career or even stuff I've done. So the idea of like make sure that any graphics that you add in your presentation, are you showing a pie chart? Are you showing a photo of something? Are you gonna show a photo of like a study you're referencing? Whatever it is, make sure whatever image that you pick, it matches the content. Don't just pick some random photo or some random image. Keep it simple. You don't have to go crazy. So if you're giving a presentation on, the yearly financial report, pie charts or bar graphs, whatever the case may be. If you are doing a presentation for a construction management company, a photo of the land that you are focusing on, just keep it very simple. Use colors carefully. This is in regards to like graphics. Don't use loud, crazy colors unless you absolutely need it. So like bright yellows or like neon green. Like, no. Keep it very simple. Be mindful of people's eyes. And also, if you're going to be showing a graphic, if it's important, leave it up long enough. Don't click to it, leave it up there for 30 seconds, and then move on. Let people have a chance to look at it, read it, analyze it while they are listening to you speak, because they're trying to listen to you speak, but they're also trying to look at something on the screen. So give them time to look at it. Avoid handouts. This is usually like just printing stuff. I personally don't think this is helpful. So that's why I wanted to pull this from the textbook because I feel like this distracts people from you. If you give out handouts, people are just going to be looking at this. Some people I've even seen just like doodling on it. Try to avoid that unless it's like needed. Usually some handouts are needed. I've been some board meetings and they still do that. So unless it's required, I would avoid it. Also include graphics in your practice runs, especially if you're doing a presentation with an organization. Sometimes you might have your own internal graphic design team and you're waiting for them to do the graphics. So you're just gonna be like, I'm just gonna practice my speech while I'm waiting for the graphic design team. It's usually best to practice your entire presentation or speech with everything included. So that way you can practice timing, you can practice cues, you can practice, am I gonna point this out? So that way it's helpful for you. And always have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D when it comes to technology, especially if you're using a lot of graphics, a lot of images, you don't know where you're going to be presenting. So always have like a backup. Yes, it's going to be on your computer, but do you have a flash drive? Did you save it up to your Google Drive, to Dropbox, whatever the case is, make sure you have it saved somewhere. Try to practice ahead of time. And if you're going to be practicing at a different area or a different room, whatever the case may be, make sure technology works. Do you need audio? Is there going to be audio set up? No, then who do you need to talk to about that? That's what it just means. Like make a plan A, B, C, and D. Always be prepared for technology to fail because it probably will. And then lastly, that's pretty much it for like the chapter presentation and graphic guidelines for you, for our class, for what I'm expecting. Yes, you're going to be doing a presentation. It's going to be worth 30 points. I put this also, it's been on Canvas for the past couple of months when I opened the Project 2 module. But it's a discussion board. You either gonna upload your presentation or you're gonna post a link to your presentation. You can use Google Docs or YouTube. This is gonna be due by midnight on December 16th. No more than 15 minutes. I was actually gonna say 10, but I've had a few students like panic. I'm like, I'm currently at 9 minutes. I don't know. I might need an extra minute. Okay, that's fine. No more than 15 minutes. Honestly, I think you can get this done in less than 10 minutes, but I just don't want to freak out everyone. No more than 15 minutes, okay? How do you record yourself? How do you do this? There's a few ways. You can set up something at a desk, at your kitchen table, whatever the case may be. Set up the camera, record yourself essentially. Some people, they use their phone. Some people, they actually have a professional camera. Some people have actually had like asked their roommate to like hold up the phone and record them. I'm not sure if that's helpful. Also, you can use Zoom. I'm currently recording myself on Zoom, and then I upload this to YouTube, and then I share the link on Canvas. I personally think recording yourself on Zoom is the easiest and most accessible thing. For whatever reason, if you are having problems, just reach out to me and we can figure out something. And then what am I expecting from you? Honestly, I don't like grading hard on like presentation, especially virtual presentations. It's so hard. It's so awkward. I'm essentially just talking to myself right now, and I even get in my own head. I feel like it's easier to grade presentations in person. So that's why I just keep it very basic. And that's why I said do the bare minimum. If you can do the bare minimum, you're probably going to get an A. That's what I'm going to tell you. But the reason why I say do the bare minimum is because I have been teaching online classes for the past 5 years or so. You will be surprised. What I mean by bare minimum, can I hear you? Can I see you? Are you sitting up? I don't say that just to be like a stickler. I say that because I've actually had a student a couple years ago give a presentation while sitting in their bed in their pajamas. No. I actually had someone give a presentation with no light, like no lights. For whatever reason, they didn't put on like their room light. So all I could see was the light from the glow of the computer. It looked very creepy. And I was like, okay. So that's what I mean. Can I see you? Can I hear you? Some people, I don't know if they're not checking their audio, they're not like listening back. I don't know what it is, but I actually had someone send an entire presentation and I couldn't hear them at all. I don't know if their computer was on mute. I can't remember the situation. So that's why I said bare minimum, people. Are you introducing yourself? You're introducing your topic. Are you going over 2 to 3 main points in the body of your presentation and whatever important information is needed to discuss those main points? And then are you concluding it? Are you summarizing what you've already discussed and then are telling me a solution? Are you telling me this is what you've learned? If you're following the ABC method with your speech, you are like right now sitting at a desk, sitting up straight, doing your best to speak clearly. I can see you. You are trying. You're not in your pajamas. You have like just a t-shirt on. You're probably going to get an A. So that's what I mean. Bare minimum, people. I am not going to be grading you hard. I won't, but if you're not going to be doing the bare minimum, that's when I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you're not getting an A. So make sure I can see you. I can hear you. You are following the ABC method. You turn it in on time. You are sitting or standing if someone's recording you, but have good posture, talking clearly. You're going to be fine. Okay. And that's it. So I will go ahead and upload this, review it, come back to it because this is not due for another month. If you have any questions, send me an email. You know how to reach me. I will get back to you. Do not panic about this. I promise you, I'm not trying to trick you. I do not grade hard on this. Do the bare minimum. Try, practice. I can tell when you haven't practiced. Don't record yourself and let that be the first and only time you go over your speech. Like, no, that's going to be all bad. Practice, ABC method, good posture. I can see you. I can hear you. You will be fine. Okay. Other than that, I will see you with the next video. Thanks, everyone.